All right, it is 7:05, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. For those that jumped on a little bit later, my name is Erin Lennon. I am one of the national account managers here at Remine. I'm excited to introduce you to Remine Pro today. This will actually be my first time training on Remine Pro, so again, thanks for being here. Also on the call with me is Caroline Molby, who is a national account manager. She has been with Remine for quite some time since the company was quite a bit smaller. So between the two of us, we should be able to answer any questions that you may have. And then I put my email address in the chat window. I would be more than happy to answer any follow-up questions, any feedback that you have. Don't hesitate to reach out. We also have a full library of support resources that's available for you to access online at any time. This training is being recorded, so look out for the recording following this event that will come from the Bonita team. And this is part one of two. So today's focus will will certainly be around these top two buttons here. I think I've confirmed with Caroline, but just to make sure everybody is seeing my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
Perfect, some nods, great. So we've got daily and search here on the left-hand side. We'll really be focusing on these first two for today. So be sure to join us on Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. That is when we will head into part two. So more in detail around saved searches, adding carts, engaging with your clients, and all the way down the line to our Docs e-signature tool. So before we get into the application itself, just a little bit about Remine and about why and how we got here to this screen in front of you. Remine was founded by real estate agents. We're not technologists by trade, which is to say that Remine started as a tool to help agents build their business. One of our founders, Leo Pareja, was actually the #1 Keller Williams agent worldwide in 2011. And it's from his needs that Remine was born. Consumers have so much information at their fingertips, and we want you to as well. So think of Remine as a one-stop data shop. You've got public record, MLS information, consumer information, all brought into one application so that you're not, as an agent, having to go to 5, 10 websites to bring in all of that information for yourself. We of course have prospecting features, the ability to save search and ways to engage with your clients that we'll touch on. Remine now services most major MLSs in the country, and we're just, again, excited to be launching with Remine Pro in your market. For those that may have used Remine Starter in the past, or perhaps you have paid for Remine Pro, which can be a month-to-month subscription. That's typically about $200 per agent per month. Your MLS has basically decided to offer that upgraded version or unlocked version of Remine Starter package. Again, if you've got questions after we are through with today's session, please send me an email at elennon@remine.com. Any questions before we get going? Perfect. And just a note on questions, they can be typed into the chat, and I will pause several times throughout this session, so you can also feel free to unmute yourself if you prefer to ask live. But yeah, perfect. So we'll start on our dashboard. When you are logging into your MLS, you'll want to look for your Remine button. It might say Remine, or it might just be this lovely logo up here in the left-hand corner of my screen. This is a logo that should depict a Mac pin, but we get a number of different guesses. Some will call it a gladiator helmet or perhaps a football helmet, but it is intended to be a pin on a map. If you're not being logged in automatically, know that the username that you use to log in to your MLS will be the same username that you use to log into Remine. It should be the same login credentials. What you're looking at right now is the Remine web application. We do have a mobile app available on iPhone and Android. When in the App Store, one little call out here is same logo. This logo will be a coral color instead of a blue color. Just a note there, you are downloading the right application if you are choosing the coral. The dashboard you can think of as your landing page, and it can be customized basically with what you want to see when you log in. There are no limits on how many, we call these cards, so no limits on how many of these cards you can add to your home screen. To start, you might want to plug in the zip code for yourself, or perhaps for a listing that you might be going to see. What's the weather over there? I will give you my zip code, which is in Seattle, Washington. And today it is a classic foggy, cool morning. I hear that you guys are a bit warmer down in Florida. So as I mentioned, you can add any number of cards. We'll just kind of walk through those cards. You can add a Twitter feed. So if I wanted to associate my own Twitter handle with my Remine account, I would basically see what I would when logged into Twitter. Right now you've got an all Remine feed. You can add listing updates. Listing updates refers to any new listings in the MLS and any changes into the status, so you can see what the market is doing. Engage will be a focus of ours in part 2 of training, but that's a card you can add to your dashboard. My listings will capture your own listings or that of listings in your office. We pull from the MLS every few minutes. So what is true in your MLS should be true within Remine, again, within a few minutes. Market Pulse gives you a glimpse at what the market is doing. Your default will be to view all of the market. But one of my favorite things about the dashboard is that you can add any number of market pulses and filter by zip code. It gives you a really good comparison to see what homes in a specific neighborhood in a specific area of your market are doing relative to the market overall. Save search. We'll talk again about save searches much more in part 2 of our training on Thursday at 1 p.m. But in the meantime, know that save searches functions pretty similarly to that within your MLS currently. When adding this card to your dashboard, it will be kind of a high-level overview of what save searches you have and which of those save searches are shared with clients. And then last but not least is property notifications, which is another card that we'll get into more in part 2. This refers to properties that you are watching and getting notifications on any changes, whether that be in price or status and so forth. I can click to add any of these cards. To move, I'd grab the circles on the right-hand side to just reorganize, dropping them down or up. So the default placement for that first card will be in the upper left corner, but I can move it. I can delete or duplicate a card. So you might use duplicate most often with the market pulse, again, if you wanted to compare a zip code to that all up view. Clicking that gear icon, I can also remove the card altogether. As I mentioned, the market pulse is my favorite, and I'll just kind of show you what it looks like to duplicate that card. Click on all, it'll drop down a zip code search. And then we want to search for something in our Bonita market. And so we'll do 313 or 34134. Oops. And I can see average sale price by status. So there are 46 active listings within 34134. And all the way down at the bottom is our average valuation estimate and absorption rate, which is is another way to say days on market. Quick call out here. These are just some, you'll see throughout the application when last data pulled was, so that you know when the information was last checked or last updated. Another favorite of mine is property notifications. Again, we'll touch on them more later on. Know that saved searches and carts are different. So quick touch on it, quick preview of what we'll talk on more on Thursday. Think area versus property. So saved searches, I might be looking in a specific zip code, or I might have drawn on our map. I want to be notified about properties that meet my criteria. Carts will refer to properties that I've identified that I am interested in, whether that's off-market properties that I'm interested in following up with the folks there, maybe a mailer campaign. I might add those properties to a cart to save, or I might create a cart for my clients. But again, the carts refer to properties that you are trying to keep track of. And that card will look like down here, my property notifications for any of those carts that I had saved for myself. Saved searches. Again, this dashboard view is an all up look. So those that I've created for myself and those that I've shared with clients. Any questions at this point?
I saw one in the chat from Amy. She said, I don't know how far back this is. It states February. How do we update that? Is it just not ready for March yet?
Yes, this is, yes, exactly. That's right. Just not ready for March yet. I will happily check on that to be doubly sure. But I'm fairly certain that that's this because it was last updated last month. And I'm logging in also to a test account. So that's another reason why my date might be a bit outdated relative to what we're looking at here today. But I will follow up on that. Perfect. And I actually am missing my own view of the chat window. So maybe that's something that only Kevin can see. But Kevin, feel free to stop me if I don't see a chat that's come in.
No worries. I saw another one from Don. Is it possible to show specific multiple zip codes in one card?
I see. So you would be wanting to look for multiple zip codes in this one market pulse. Is that understanding the question?
I'm pretty sure that's what she's asking for.
Okay, great. At this time, no. But that is something that you don't have any limits on the number of cards that you can add. So you could duplicate this card again and choose a different zip code and compare the three across the board. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at the search page. Search is where you'll be spending most of your time, whether that's looking at properties that are for sale on behalf of your clients, generating leads, or looking for public record data. So when looking for public record data, you'll want to be able or be sure that the nationwide search button here at the top is selected. This is the major benefit of Remine Pro over Remine Starter because you're able to search public record data across the US. That includes Alaska and Hawaii. We also have MLS data and consumer data that you can layer onto this map. So again, you can think of this as our data warehouse. And there are two ways to search. Number one, you can search on the map, zooming in or zooming out. So notice my starting point is more than 350,000 results. And that number will change as I zoom in. You can see 85,000. And I can go further and further. down to narrow my results. I can also use a Polygon tool to draw an area on the map that I want to be searching in. So you'd simply click, click, and the box will kind of suggest where to close itself off. Perfect. Oops, that's my fault. 1, 2, 3, and there's my search. Up here at the top, you can see that that overlay, the polygon that I just drew, becomes a filter that I can remove by simply clicking X. I'm also not limited to just one of these polygons. So I might want to use a circular drawing, and I can add that. So now I've basically eliminated some of the properties within this middle area, right? Say I specifically didn't want to look at a certain neighborhood, I could draw multiple polygons over the map and then remove them. One little call out I like is that when you draw a circle, it gives you a radius of your overlay. And so this would be helpful for someone who's, say, wanting to stick within 5 miles of grandma's house or 2 miles of grandma's house because they want to be able to walk. So again, multiple polygons can be overlaid. And this is kind of your first way to search. Within Remine, you can search by places, by people, by zip code, neighborhood, school district, and even subdivision. So say I was searching only for, and I had recently searched for this, properties that would be associated with Bonita Springs Elementary School. So when I add that filter, you can see that area being drawn and the resulting properties associated. A lot of times we get the question about what is required in order to be able to search by school district. Does the listing agent need to actually include that in the property details? And the answer is no. We're pulling this information from public record data. You can also search by people nationwide. Again, be sure that nationwide search is on, but know that also, this is a big country, so Jim Smith will pull up. Actually, that's fewer folks than I expected for Jim Smith, but if I see all results, I will be able to look for Jim Smiths across the country. So this would be a great way to kind of check in on a client who's perhaps moved and see where they are at and what they are up to. Similarly, you can search outside of your MLS to look at a property and public record information associated with that property. So one example I like to use is a home in Austin. Lane, here it is. Not sure why I've been logged in for quite some time, so it's just asking me for a second login. So here is this property and its details page. We can view this property on the map. Oh boy. We would be able to view this property on the map. These are some of the things that go wrong when you're training folks, but this would be a parcel map, so it should show you. Let me try this again from this view now that I've been re-logged in. So if I had typed in this property address and I wanted to see show on the map, I can go to show on the map. Clicking property details page would open the property details page in a new window. So for now, let's start with on the map. So this is showing me where in Austin it is, and I can kind of zoom out to see the neighborhood. And then when I open the property details page in a new window, you won't be prompted to log in as I'm being prompted to log in. But this is going to be your property details page. Here, we're not reinventing the wheel by any stretch of the imagination. Instead, we're bringing you information that you might otherwise have used to search in multiple different tools, and we're layering in some additional pieces of information that we'll touch on in just a minute. So this is going to be a view of your parcel map that'll show you the property boundaries, flood risk. So this is data that's being pulled directly from FEMA to show you where a property sits relative to flood boundaries in the area. Location is just a Google Maps satellite view and then street view as well, so that you can take a look, especially for an off-market property, to see if you can see what the exterior of the home looks like. Perfect. So then we have our key stats. You can see occupancy status. This is a big one that'll come into play when you're looking for people data. You can see if it's an absentee owner. You can observe the building features, lot type, the acreage. We pull most recent tax data as well. Parking information, and active mortgage is a big one. So this is going to tell you any and all of the active mortgages that are associated with this home, the origination amount, the date, term, rate, and provider. And this information, you can see that this home has 2 active mortgages. So the active mortgage information combined with the property value estimates will give you a net equity assessment. Now, a couple things to call out as far as net equity is concerned. Again, we're pulling the active mortgages and First American's valuation. We run that through an amortization schedule, and that is how we get our estimated net equity. It is an estimate. It is not 100% accurate. Some reasons why this estimate wouldn't be quite as accurate is if someone paid off their mortgage more quickly. That's information that we wouldn't be privy to. And if they've most recently paid off their mortgage, it can take a while for those tax records, or rather those public records, to be updated such that you get a more accurate picture of percent equity. Perfect. So we'll drop down to valuation, and the estimate you see up here is going to be an average of the sources below. So one call out is that these are data points that we are pulling in from other sources, where you may, or your consumers, rather your clients, may have gone to multiple different sites to check out a home's valuation. We're just bringing all of that data in for you and giving you a blended valuation. That's going to be your Remine estimate. We also show school data, and you can see that it comes from Niche. Click here to kind of learn more about the schools themselves. You've got demographics, so a look at who's who in this neighborhood. Property history, we're going back 20 years for property history, as well as mortgage and tax records. And last but certainly not least is going to be your associated people. So big benefit of Remine Starter is that, or excuse me, Remine Pro above Remine Starter is that you do not have to pay for contact data. So all of this is available to you to add to your contacts so that you can communicate with these folks. On this right side, you can see that the owner of the home is Delaney Wade. We can take our best guess and assume that Lynn is Delaney's wife or partner. You can see that Delaney's got one of 2 phone numbers listed as do not call. And then we've got a third associated person. So I'll stop here and ask us, to play a prospecting game. If I scrolled up at the top here and I noticed that rather than saying no, that absentee owner said yes, what could we reasonably assume Jan's role is here? Who is she? I see someone like melding it. All right, well, chat's invisible to me. So if you thought or said renter, you'd be right. So if this was an absentee owner was selected as yes, we can reasonably assume that Delaney lives elsewhere and Jan is renting. Jan's contact information, or rather mailing address, might be associated with this property. A couple notes on contact data. It is contact data, so we cannot guarantee it's accurate. There's a couple of reasons why contact data might not be available, and also one note is that there would be email information were that available via the public record. Protected states means that people, specifically those in law enforcement and government agencies, can request that data can be made private. There are other states in which the data can be made private by simply paying for it to be put into that status. So those would be some reasons why you wouldn't see contact data. Additionally, contact information is hidden for homeowners of active properties. We hide that until after the home has since sold. And again, all this data is scrubbed against do not call. So if you're seeing do not call, that means that we've scrubbed it against a do not call registry. I'll pause here for any questions. Okay. Well, and just one of the last things we'll do today is zoom in and we will pick an active property to view. I also want to touch on some of our filters that you can layer on. Let's go ahead and zoom in. This is showing some leasing properties. Here's an active sale. There we go. So what I had done was simply click the property name. It'll open in a view details page. These are the photos that are pulling in from the MLS, so I can click and scroll through those. This is a very pretty home. Below here, you can see remarks, both public and private, as well as showing instructions. I could start a chat with the listing agent by clicking this chat here, and they'll receive a notification in their Remine account on this left-hand side. And then below is the property detail information that we walked through for an off-market property. So heading back to my search, carts refers to if you want to save that property and get notifications about that property. You can filter on property value. You can also filter on home equity. So looking at that net equity and seeing that I want to look for someone who has, at least $500,000 in equity in their home. You can filter by ownership time, so how long has the person lived in the property, their sell score, how likely they are to want to list their home, whether they're absentee or owner occupant. This is a popular one for those that are looking for some snowbirds, perhaps, folks that might be living out of state who are interested in, or rather who maybe have real estate in your market. Again, you can apply a flood zone risk if you're wanting to look for low flood zone risk properties. That's pulling in from FEMA. And search by building type, land use, Airbnb. So looking at what the home could generate in terms of nightly revenue if listed on Airbnb. This is a popular pro filter. You can look at the mortgage rate and so on and so forth. So all of these filters can be added or removed so that you can really target your search, and then you just remove them by clicking out of the X. That is it. That is our focus for today. What questions can I answer? What is on your mind?
Man, it's a quiet group today.
Sometimes no news is good news, but if you do think of anything, feel free again to reach out to me or to save that question for our Thursday session. Really want to promote that Thursday session. We get into kind of more of the meat of Remine.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So I got Dawn in the chat saying she was hoping to learn how to use this for prospecting. Is that maybe something that you're going to go over on Thursday, or
Yes,
any other tools?
Prospecting will be the big focus on Thursday. So please join us. And of course that session will be recorded should you be unable to take live. Another call out will be, and Amy, I promised this to you earlier, click the lower right-hand corner, this blue question mark to view any announcements. You can take a self-guided tour of the application, which is really handy. It just simply shows you what buttons do what things as you're working within the application. You can view our webinars, the recorded trainings, visit our help center that's got a ton of useful how-to guides. They can be printed. You can paste them all around your office. There are some videos. Chat with us. We'll connect you directly to our support staff. Our operating hours are currently between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time. Those will probably be expanding in the near future. You can also give us feedback and just simply submit a ticket. Say you're working later at night and you just have a question. Send us an email, or rather this link will prompt you to send us an email to support@remine.com. And that is how you get your assistance. But yes, definitely Thursday's focus will be on prospecting, on saving your searches, getting yourself set up with your carts, and inviting clients to view those carts, chatting, contacts, all of that good stuff. We'll also touch on Docs, which is our e-signature tool.
Awesome. I think the only questions in chat are going to be related to the Thursday class. If you guys can't make it, I really suggest you guys do. But if you can't make it, we're going to have recordings of both of these classes on our website for you guys to view. So I don't really want to go into the questions in the chat right now.